Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have a returning good brother to the temple, coming to us from 9th level games, previously on here for Mazes, City of Skull, and Return to Dark Tower in RPG form. Now coming to us once again with Thunder Road Vendetta in RPG form, the one and only Chris O'Neill. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. There's been a few facelifts since the last time you visited the temple. I hope you got a kick out of the God of Blade soundtrack that I sent you a few months back.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm. I wish people could actually download the game, but unfortunately it's disappeared from shelves unless you want to go some more unorthodox routes. But so with Thunder Road Vendetta, as I understand it, much like with Return to Dark Tower, this is an adaptation of a board game of the same name.
This is an adaptation of the board game, and very specifically, it's an adaptation being written by the people that wrote the board game.
So, is it a case where you reached out to the board game folk, or they reached out to you? What's the chicken? What's the egg here?
The chicken and the egg in this particular case is actually pretty funny because the designers reached out to us and were like, "Hey, we want to make a role-playing game in this setting because we've really fallen in love with the setting, and because you have done Return to Dark Tower with Restoration, we were wondering if they might be interested." And so we got everybody in a room and said, "Hey, what does everybody think about this?" And that's really how it came. So it's a little chicken, it's a little egg.
Mm-hmm. So the answer to who came first, the chicken or the egg, is both.
It is both. Yes. This is a weird situation in the fact that this is a board game based on a board game, and a board game based on a board game, and this is the designers of the new board game are working for Restoration. So it's one of those situations where there's a lot of different people involved and a lot of different people with different skills and different different desires, looking what they're trying to get out of making a role-playing game.
Yeah.
So it was actually really, really, really cool.
And I know previously when we talked about Return to Dark Tower, we talked about its origins and its original board game, and subsequently buried the electronics boner that happened with a lot of board games back in the 90s. But I think
both of these games are actually from the 1980s. So
yeah. I say 90s, but there was I think we talked about this before. There was that period of time where a lot of board game manufacturers had a massive boner for having some sort of gimmick. Mousetrap is my whipping boy for this kind of thing. But I suppose Crossfire is as well. Although I'd say people remember more the ad than the actual game, but that's just me. But so I think it's fair to say that as far as the lineage goes, the original Thunder Road Vendetta is a spiritual successor to the OG Thunder Road that Milton Bradley made back in the day.
Correct. That's where it's coming from. Is that Thunder Road by Milton Bradley a million years ago? So
And that that one, I suppose some people would call that a simpler version of Car Wars, but
Sorry, say that again, Mildred.
I suppose some might call it a simpler version of Car Wars, but I remember looking at this and I ended up getting flashbacks to like Chainsaw Warrior. Those Mad Max adjacent things from the very early days of Games Workshop.
I don't know a lot of those games. I mean, it was such a popular genre. The Mad Max derivatives were all over, especially in movies.
If I'm being honest, I think the amount of pop culture impact that Mad Max had is grossly understated by a lot of folk, because you had influences in video games, you had influences in comics.
Well, it's a distinct genre.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the Mad Max versus the post-apocalyptic movie. One of the things great about Thunder Road is it's not really about the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
It's about blowing everything up so that you can drive cars.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a game that's about, surviving in an apocalypse, there's a bunch of zombie games, and there's Powered by the Apocalypse and a bunch of,
yeah, and half of what
Apocalypse
Zero
does.
Kind of
yeah. That's not what this game's about. This game is about doing awesome stuff in cars.
Mm-hmm. And
that's what the board game's about, and that's what the role-playing game's about.
Yeah. And every Mad Max movie ends with some sort of massive vehicular battle. That's the goal, right? The goal is to get as much vehicular ridiculousness as possible. Yeah, to that end, I'd say I could easily recommend this kind of thing to people who, to use something a little bit more modern, have a background with, say, Twisted Metal or Crossout.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, Twisted Metal is definitely. I've seen a little bit of that. I definitely think that definitely has that. Anything. We have cars. It's the world has ended. We still have cars.
Mm-hmm. Yes. In 2000X, the world exploded. This made a lot of people angry and has been considered a bad idea. Sorry, I had to get my Douglas Adams joke out of my system.
Yeah. We all agree it was a bad idea. We really hope that we don't have to go back. Yeah. Right.
But when it comes now, since this is utilizing the same polymorph system, was it relatively easy to convert that system into Thunder Road, or were there some things in the polymorph system that weren't going to be as compatible and had to be tweaked?
I mean, from a compatibility perspective, everything's there. The team that worked on this game went in fully understanding and knowing right away what they wanted to do, which was to match the dice up to the cars. So they got to spend more time on how do you bring all of the different things that you need in a vehicular apocalypse game.
Mm-hmm.
To the game. So,
and it is a clever move.
They spent more time about the things that they had to worry about were things like how do I maintain a settlement? How do I make my car better? And what does that look like? Because the core system is very adaptable and easy to align to the world of Thunder Road. It's one of my favorite pieces of the game. It was the first piece that we came up with, even before we had the team all in place that was writing it, which is the idea that you are not just the driver; you're also the car.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a D4, but you're also a V4. You're the D6, but you're also the V6. So the Avenger is the V8 car. So if that's the character type. If you're playing the D8, you're the V8. You're the Avenger. So all those things really works. It works really well in Polymorph because Polymorph is so narrative focused. A game coming from a board game, which is a very unlike a lot of board games like this, Thunder Road's not a hugely strategic game. It's a very tactical game with a lot of randomness. It's dripping with flavor, and so it's perfect for the kind of stories that you can tell using Polymorph.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. Now, with that in mind, it definitely looks like the 4 sub roles that you had previously that were assigned to different numbers, that's still present in the form of shift, steer, shoot, and slam.
Yeah, so those are like the core actions in the game. Like in every game, we change them.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's the thinking activity is shift. Making your car do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Steer is movement, maneuverability. Shoot is do violence, and then finally slam, which is ramming your car or your body into someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge part of board game Thunder Road Vendetta. So
yeah. And
and then to that, we're adding 2 different things, which is the pedal, which is whenever you roll a 1, if what you're doing is about hitting the gas, right? Are you going faster?
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing something crazier? If so, it succeeds. And if what you're doing trying to stop, right? If you roll a 1, then you're hitting the brake, right? So what you're going to do is it's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And then anytime you roll the top number on your die, you can take the keys. So it succeeds no matter what you're doing, but now you're in the driver's seat and you have the physical keys and you are the target of the next bad thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a super fun difference that this game has over some other games because it's encouraging you. The entire game is designed to push you towards doing the most insane, over the top thing you can do.
Yeah. Now, given that, I am curious. Since you're using 2 resources, gas and scrap, and I'm curious, or fuel, on the sheet itself. What would those 2 resources be used for primarily?
I missed what you were saying. I was having a problem with my mic.
The 2 resources that you're dealing with are fuel and scrap, and I'm curious what those resources are going to be used for.
So, in a post-apocalyptic world, fuel and scrap are the kind of traditional, like, these are the things that are keeping you going. So fuel is all the things that you would do to drive your vehicle. When you're you can spend fuel to get the GM to give you what you want. As long as what you're doing is making the car do more. And then scrap is all about your body, right? So you're taking damage, you're doing those things, but it's also about upgrading your vehicle. And there's a bunch of work that the team did in building up things and upgrades, things that go into the board game and talk to the board game and that. So, like most games, it's you got two sides to it. It's stoking the fires, making things go. Scraps about taking damage, keeping things together. So, and there's some other developments and there's some other things coming out in the game that haven't really been done yet. So, yeah. But those are the big ones.
Yeah, when it comes to those upgrades, is there a mix of upgrades that are specific to roles, or are they upgrades that are more universal? Did I lose you? Hold on a moment, folks. We may have some technical difficulties.
Sorry, there you go. The upgrades are all about the things you can add to your car. So, I'm going to put a snowplow on the front or a rail gun on the top, or I got a computer system that lets me track people. So they're not related to your role; they're just related to the car, and all of them are expected to be used and abused and probably jettisoned. Um, a good way of thinking about stories in Thunder Road are kind of like episodes of A Team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're probably always going to, reach a situation where the best thing you can do is, oh, well, we're going to build a sonic cannon and we're going to put it on top of the motorcycle for this episode because that's going to help us defeat this monster that we've encountered in the wasteland or this, gang of thieves. And then we'll completely forget about it next time, right? Because it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned the A Team, for whatever reason, I ended up thinking of the whole flying a tank thing in the movie.
One of my favorite bits. That movie was great.
Yeah. Uh, which is the exact kind of pulling a plan out of where the sun don't shine that I'd expect.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. We did a short how to play actual play on the Kickstarter page, and there's a bit in there where you know someone effectively tries to fly a tank, um, uh, and it does not go well. It's great, but that you are encouraged to do that kind of completely ridiculous, over the top thinking.
Yeah. Now, going a bit further. Uh, when it comes to the style and substance part of the sheet, is that primarily a narrative thing, or are there some consequences to different styles and substance?
There's some information, there's some rules related, but it's really about driving what it is that your character is thinking about and who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Style being what do people see, substance about what's inside. So substance is giving you kind of edges that you can affect gameplay with. So it's if you're a joker, it's different than if you're a loner. And then the style is really definitely more stylistic. It's what do you look like and what do people see. Are you wearing a top hat and tails, or are you dressed like a hockey goalie? Because if no one's just wearing a t-shirt and jeans in the dark future. Everybody's a character, right?
And I knew exactly who you were referencing when you said wearing a hockey mask. Hello there, Lord Humongous.
Right, right.
Uh, Now, with that in mind, you do talk about rules for things like racing and dueling. When it comes to racing, how would that change how the core mechanics are going to work?
So one of the things about racing and dueling, for that matter, because they're very similar systems. They're all about position, right? They're all about working your way between, especially when there's multiple. So there's just some simple rules in the game to drive that. Um, it's funny. Chase mechanics are one of those things that people have really sought a lot of times in a lot of different RPGs, and turns out that if you think of it not as a chase but as a race, where it's all about positioning, where do I want to be in association or in relation to you, and when do I want to be there, right? That's really what it's about. So Dave and Brent and Clark that did the game, they spent a lot of time focused on making sure that there are plenty of different opportunities to use the rules in different ways, so that the cars aren't, you know, one of the interesting things is in every race there should be opportunities where being the small car is the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to give you an advantage, and being the big car is going to give you an advantage in different parts of the race. Um, so, I think in a lot of ways, when you look at this game, the game of ours that's the closest is Rebel Scum, which is another like big cinematic game. Also happens to have vehicles in it. Just it happens to have spaceships.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, we don't make a distinction because you're rolling the die if you and I are in the same car, or if we're each in a different car, or we're just having an argument in a bar. All the roles and the activities are the same. If I punch you in the face, or if I shoot you with a gun, or I shoot you with the cannons loaded on the underside of my 1978 Plymouth Duster, it's all a shoot roll.
Mm-hmm.
Which has got us into a joke in house, which is I shoot you in the face. Which is what we think that they say in the world of Thunder Road. Hey man, I'm going to shoot you in the face with my fists.
Which I would be lying if I didn't say that in some more beer and pretzels games I've run in the pike and that are supposed to be in a pike and shot era, somebody didn't make cannonballs that were shaped like fists because they could.
Well, I apologize for the quality of this. Apologize. Can you say that again?
In some old pike and shot games that I've run, there has been at least one person who's made the cannonballs for their cannon to be shaped like fists.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna literally shoot you with fists. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Or I think one person did that with a modified version of a cannon. Just because he wanted to say I cast fist.
I cast fists, right? Sure.
Or the barbarian whose only spell is cast iron.
Yes.
But now, since you mentioned that, if somebody were to come up to you and say, well, given the way the car is set up, what's stopping people from rushing to pick D10? Like, what would be the disadvantage of picking the larger die for the rolls?
Well, I mean, so the larger your die, right? You're going to it's like everything else in the real world, right? So you have top end speed because you're big and heavy. You have more scrap, and more ability to handle damage. But you are less maneuverable and making changes and making opportunities. The smaller you are, the faster you are to react, and the more easy you can see what's going on. Also, it's easier to fix and repair yourself as you're going. So, like everything in Polymorph, each of the die types gives you an advantage, and it's really about picking what you want to do. So, do you want to be everywhere on the battlefield? Do you want to use upgrades and special abilities? Then you want to be a murder bike. You want to be a D4. If you want to be fast and agile, but to jump things and fit anywhere and do anything, you want to be a Doom Buggy, right? You want to be a D6. If you want to be the muscle car, right? You want to shoot guys with a shotgun, and you want to drive around in a badass car and knock stuff over. You want to be the Avenger. You want to be the D8, the V8. And finally, if you just want to make sure no matter what happens that you're still standing, you want to be the tank. you want to be the eliminator. You want to be the D10, right? So,
Yeah.
what you can do, one of the things of the game and how it explains it, I like this, which is instead of us being like it costs X fuel to do something, it's just if you have a smaller, more fuel efficient vehicle, you have more fuel.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's explained in the game.
Yeah. I can
which is the same as the inverse of you have a more. It requires less fuel to make your murder bike go than it does to make your D10 Illuminator go.
Mm-hmm. Now, because of the square-based setup with Thunder Road, whether it be the OG or Vendetta, it very much is placing positioning, since ramming other vehicles is part of the gameplay loop. But as I understand it, ninth level, the polymorph engine is a bit looser when it comes to positioning. It's not as concerned with positioning and placement. So how do you maintain that same sense of understanding positioning and handling and the like when placement is more abstract?
Yeah. So positioning. If you want to get down to controlled positioning at that level, we in the game tell you how you can use the board game to actually simulate those kind of activities.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to capture it in the gameplay, without having a huge amount of information, it's really about where am I in relation to you, right? It doesn't matter. I don't need to know that you're 5 spaces ahead of me. What I need to know is that you're ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is am I close to you or am I not close to you? Right? Those are the things that are important. Because when it comes to the narrative of things that are in the way when we're driving a car, that's really kind of up to the players. You have a lot of control. If you need something to be a ramp, it can be a ramp. And if you don't have that, you can always spend fuel to make that happen.
Yeah, I can certainly get that.
So again, it is. I don't want to call it loosey goosey because it is very specific, and you are looking at some resources that you're controlling. But none of our games are tactical to the level of I need a miniature on the table.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's fun, I was recently playing the board game Thunder Road with some old friends of mine, and they were like, I can't wait to see the role-playing game because I could totally see us playing a game of Thunder Road Vendetta, the board game, as the combat in the game. And then, we're going to get out of the cars and then we're going to have the adventure. But the thing that we've been trying to drive is keeping you as much in the car as possible, which seems kind of funny, but we in our stretch goals, we're doing these adventures, and each of the adventures I'm trying to take a different die type and say, okay, what would the bad guy look like if they were this, right? So the one is going to be a murder mystery that's about motorcycles.
Yeah.
And the idea is keeping you on the bike as long as possible. Like, how do I have a murder mystery where you're solving it from inside of a car that's driving? That's like the goal. Because unlike traditional dungeon role-playing, in vehicular role-playing, we want to be in the car as much as possible. The car is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to create all the activities to give the car the ability to do all of those things.
Yeah. Now, since we're drawing a lot with Mad Max when it comes to both the board game and with this RPG, I do want to field one particular concept. Not necessarily a scenario, but one concept. In stuff like, say, Fury Road, for instance, you had the big convoy battle of this massive vehicle being assailed on all sides by a bunch of smaller vehicles. Would it be possible to replicate something like that? If not, not necessarily a one for one, but something in that same vein within the Thunder Road RPG sandbox.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, so there's a bunch of different kinds of hazards that will be presented in the book that the team put together. You know, different kind of vehicles that you're going after, and different kind of people are kind of easy. But then, you know, it's also an irradiated wilderness, and we're doing this. So why not have a kaiju? Why not have sandworms? Why not have uh, a giant gun platform made up of 16 old train cars, right? Like all those things are all possible. And so in the framework, you're making one of two decisions. So you're either saying it's one bad guy or it's a series of linked bad guys, right? It's a series of linked hazards or it's one big hazard. Mm-hmm. If it's one big hazard, you know, you have to determine what are you trying to do, right? And I mean, it's different if you're fighting the convoy at the end of an adventure because it's the big hazard, it's the marquee boss at the end of the game, where it's going to have a lot of quote unquote hit points and there's going to be a lot of activity you're going to need to do. Or if it's the main activity of the game where we're taking it apart piece by piece, where it's a series, it exists as a big thing in our story, but it's actually a series of smaller linked hazards that each need to be resolved on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I'm basically asking is what would be the equivalent of a solo type monster back in D&D 4th. You know, something that is built to take on a whole table by itself instead of needing extra help.
Yeah, in mazes we call them marquees. Mm-hmm. And we have a bunch of stuff, and the rules are very similar. So, yeah. Where they get to do extra things, and take extra actions against, and where, I as a GM find it I find those kind of hazards to be easy to navigate, because. Usually what I do is give them a number of actions equal to the number of players, so that I can have each player being addressed by whatever that they're doing, mm-hmm. Until they starts to take damage, and then the players are now able to work together to get through that. In the beginning, it's just about keeping everybody equal until something fails. Someone succeeds really well, or it creates an opportunity for everyone else. I like a big giant monster that we can all fight together. Yeah. And I find that to be a satisfying conclusion, or a satisfying opening a lot of times to games. So in the kaiju adventure that we're working on, the idea is it's going to start with you like in the middle of a fight with a giant monster, and then have like a adventure after it, which is like, oh man, we got to go find this stuff, or we're all going to die from the radioactive blood from this kaiju that we just killed.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things on the Kickstarter is the dice car. I'm curious who pitched that, because that is both ridiculous and brilliant at the same time.
We're very excited about the dice car. That came from within 9th level, and we thought back and forth about whether we were going to do all the dice or one die, but we spent some time and tried to do some development and get some pieces. So we're going to see how it works. For the people at home, if you haven't seen it, the idea is it's basically like a Hot Wheels car. It's a plastic car that has a hole cut into its the hood of the car, and then you're looking at a spindle that's connected to the axle of the car. So when you roll the car, it's rolling the die, and in polymorph games, you use a D4, a D6, a D8, and a D10. And so we decided what we would do is we would make a D12. Since we're using the D12 for a lot of random things, so we're doing a lot of random charts and a lot of random activities in Thunder Road. So we start the dice card line with the Thunder Road, D12 D12 interceptor. So the prototypes that we've gotten so far are really actually cool. I know that they're scheduled to go up in one of the updates. Our one guy, printed some pieces and painted them. We have a stretch goal to get some a sticker sheet that you'll be able to use it to customize the car, so you could paint it and do some kind of cool stuff. And then if people are really into them, we'll see about making more of them. I'd love a whole set of dice cars. Mm-hmm. So.
I'm glad. It's times like these where I'm glad that the polymorph system caps off at D10, because the idea of doing D12 or D20 in this die car setup is, maybe you could make maybe you could make one of those work if you use a semi, but I think that's pushing it.
Yeah, if we talked about doing a D20, and if we did a D20, I would actually do two. I would do two spindles.
Mm-hmm.
So like the old roll 2d10 for your D20 kind of roll.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 0 through 9, and then whether or not the other piece was adding 10 to it.
And I know with some of the die you're adding as part of this. One of the die faces has the key for the dice cars. Is that still going to be a thing?
We don't actually know. It's really the final design is going to depend on how much space we have.
Mm-hmm.
The jumbo 24 millimeters, I'm actually thinking of. We originally were going to just put keys on them like we have done with other polymorph dice, but we might put the actual car sizes so that you could look and directly see your little car on it. So we might end up. Hopefully, we're gonna have some space to play around because they are big, chunky 24 millimeter dice. So,
yeah, I can.
Which
now, I know that settlements was something that was brought up, but I want to take that and put a bit of a spin on that concept, and that being a settlement that's not a static place, but the notion of doing a traveling convoy. Would that be something that would be doable within the sandbox?
Yep. Yeah, the settlement is really just the idea that you need a home base, and it doesn't matter if that home base is an old motel or a bunker underground or a convoy or whatever that situation might be. The idea is it's giving you it's really to just prevent all the games of Thunder Road just being Murder Hobo, because it's pretty close to Murder Hobo as it is. So giving yourself some roots and giving yourself some controls. There's a whole bunch of that, and that's all kind of stuff that's kind of new to polymorph. So there's been some third-party material that people have done for a settlement systems for mazes. It was really kind of cool. It's actually called Mazes Settlement, which I think is available on Drive-Thru. It was a zine quest. This is unlike that. That was kind of more of a base building kind of game. Mm-hmm. In this, settlements are more about creating a place to get stories from, but also as a way to store and to interact with players in different ways. So
yeah, I can get that. So with that in mind, what are you shooting for as far as a page count for the core book of Thunder Road Vendetta?
I think somewhere in the 200-ish. It's nice. So the core book, the good thing is the best thing is the core book's already been written.
Mm-hmm.
The designers have written it. We've been playtesting throughout the summer. We got the full manuscript in before we started the Kickstarter. And now we're looking at additional material to be added to it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's going to be adventures. But we have a pretty good handle. 6x9 hardcover. 200 plus, 200 to 250 pages is really probably where we're going to end up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can certainly get that. And as far as a release window, at the very least for the digital version, what would you be shooting for?
Say that again?
As far as a release window on the digital version, at least, I know the physical version is going to take a lot more time. What would you be shooting for on that? You there? Hold on one moment, folks.
Sorry, I'm not hitting the button. Our goal is to try to get everything done by the summer, Mildred. So,
all right, I can get that, and I saw that the estimated delivery was August 2025, which means that it dropped right around the time of my birthday, give or take a few days.
Happy birthday. We're hoping to have we're having an adventure in the free RPG Day kit, and then having the book hit. Hopefully, like August, it is our goal. So,
yeah, I can get
that. Our goal is to have it at Gen Con 25. So,
which is certainly apropos. But
yeah.
I will most definitely look forward to seeing how it develops. But with that said, I do want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come all the way to my temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here.
We always enjoy the walk, Mildred. We always enjoy the walk.
And of course, anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged.
Well, I'm gonna head out and do some of that drinking. So,
yeah, make sure to get plenty of honey. And of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there will be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Also